Okay, I think we're good. Well, hey, good evening, MAGFest. How are we feeling? God damn, all right, yeah, that's good. Well, hey, thank you all so much for coming to the panel tonight. My name is Wayne. That's it here. On YouTube, Twitter, Blue Sky, all that good stuff, I go by Wayne is Boss. I've been in the YouTube content creation scene for a few years now. I work on game reviews, largely retro, but in recent years, I've definitely been putting a larger emphasis on Digimon content. And a large part of that is because I did sit down to review the first Digimon World title, and that video did a lot better than I was expecting it to. That is the only of my videos that has reached over 500,000 views. Thank you. I didn't realize there were that many people out there that actually wanted to hear someone talk about that. Yeah, I have been doing a lot of research, and over the past few years, I've been reviewing more and more Digimon games, and I've been taking in a lot of information about them, so I thought tonight it would be fun to go ahead and discuss a bit of that. So tonight, we are going to be taking a look at the Digimon franchise, specifically how it relates to video games. We are going to be talking about the style of games that exist, we're going to be talking about some really weird titles, and some very odd mechanics that they have included. Before we can dive too deep into that, though, we have to answer a very important question. There it is. What is Digimon? Now, I don't mean what is a Digimon. I don't mean what are Digimon. If you know anything about this franchise, even as an outsider, it's probably that damn theme song, so you know that they are digital monsters and you know they are champions. What I really mean is, what is Digimon as a franchise? And in order to answer that, we have to go back to the origin, which means we got to address the elephant in the room. If you grew up liking Digimon, you probably know what happens when somebody mentions the franchise. Someone's got to bring it up. Someone's got to say it. They have to talk about the other franchise it reminds them of. And we all have to come to terms with the fact that Digimon is kind of a derivative copy of Tamagotchi. So this was the original V-Pet. In 1996, these released in Japan, the next year in America, and this thing really took off back in the day. 90s kids especially remember these little guys. They really took off. Did you guys have a not Digimon, a Tamagotchi as a kid? All right, yeah. Yeah, did you maybe forget to feed it a few too many times and watch it leave this mortal plane as a result of your negligence? Did they get banned from your school? Are you old? So for the uninitiated, the Tamagotchi was essentially just a little LCD display on a keychain. It's this small digital animal. You would feed it, you would hatch it out of an egg, raise it, and you would play with it, all that good stuff, and, clean up its poop on occasion. The sort of stuff we gotta do for ourselves all the time, but for some reason, we keep doing this thing to ourselves where we decide we gotta start doing it for other things too, like other animals, or children. As you take care of them, if you manage to keep them alive long enough, they will start to develop into larger forms. They will grow. They will change shape. And again, these were incredibly popular. A lot of people had them, but the company that owned Tamagotchi, Bandai, decided that they wanted a version of these little guys that was easier to market to young boys. And that is where the digital monsters known as Digimon were born. There were a couple of key differences here. Instead of that cute little egg kind of look, we had these bricks. They had a little bit more of a cooler edge to them, They were more solid. And whereas a Tamagotchi, you'd have this cute little blob that would turn into an adorable little bunny creature. You would have something kind of similar with Digimon. You would maybe start with a little hairball with eyes, and it would turn into a zombie cyborg T-Rex with cannons in its chest. As the franchise would continue, we would see Later forms of Digimon take other shapes. And the attaboy. It's not to say that Digimon can't be cute too. Look at this man. This is a recent one. His name is Yolkmon. That is my son. He's adorable, and they can be very, very cute, but given enough time, they will usually turn into some kind of monster that's capable of battle. And that was another one of the gimmicks that kind of came with Digimon. Yes, you were raising them, you were training them, you were playing with them, but one of the cool competitive edges that this had over Tamagotchi, they could kill each other. If you had a friend with a Digimon, you could have them link up and they would battle each other, and depending on how well you raised it, it would fare a little better in the fight. Again, it just added this fun spin to the raising mechanic, and it was another reason to try to reach cooler and cooler forms of these little creatures. A lot of these creatures were originally designed by one Kenji Watanabe, an incredible artist. I love his style. His work with a pen is unmatched as far as I'm concerned. And many of his monsters, yeah, there you go. For this man right here. And many of these creatures have remained some of my favorite monster designs. Omnimon / Omegamon, whichever you prefer, is one of the coolest damn monsters in existence. The franchise actually did garner some success. We saw trading card games. We saw a toy line. In 1999, we saw the launch of the Digimon Adventure anime, which is how I got introduced to the series as a kid. A lot of those anime series actually still hold up incredibly well today. They speak a lot about the different depths of the human psyche, which is not something you would typically expect. But these kids go through journeys. They go through some really deep development. A lot of trauma. But it only made sense that eventually, as the IP continued to grow, it was going to start dipping into the digital realm as well. And that is where we got to the video games. Now, if you're thinking that the game started with this cover right here, you're wrong. As a matter of fact, in my review of this game, I falsely claimed this was the first Digimon video game, and it is not. That honor goes to Digital Monster version S for the Sega Saturn. This was released in 1998, and it was essentially like an emulation of the experience from raising one of these Digimon or Digivices. And instead, you were doing it on your TV through the use of a console that, frankly, deserved much better. It was a lot of the same thing. You're training your Digimon, you're feeding them, and you're just, like, building them up. This is also where we start getting into the wonderful little term Digivolve. It's not just that they're evolving and changing shape. Digivolving is, like, the core of what sets Digimon apart from so many other things, especially in the video games. One thing that this game actually did that kind of helped elevate it from just the LCD toys was that it offered a couple of new mechanics. There was a shop where you could buy different kinds of food for your Digimon. You could train them up, and the stats that you got them up to would change the forms that they would take later on after Digivolution. It also added an actual goal to the game where a bunch of hackers are taking over the digital realm and you got to go to different locations and fight them and get medals from it, all that good stuff. So there was actually, like, you know, something to keep you going. And now you could actually go out and fight with your Digimon, and you didn't need friends to do it. I'm sure that helped out a lot of kids back in the day. This was not the only video game to emulate the gameplay style of a virtual pet, but it was the only one on a home console, at least if we're talking about emulation this closely. The other virtual pet simulators were portable. The first of which was Digital Monster version WonderSwan, released in 1998 for the system, the WonderSwan. Now, if you've never heard of the WonderSwan, that's okay. They never came out over here. They were exclusive to Japan, originally coming out in 1999, and they were actually designed by Gunpei Yokoi, the same father of Nintendo's Game Boy. Sadly, this was also the last piece of tech that he was able to develop before his passing. So this actually does hold a pretty significant mark in video game history. One cool gimmick, the way that you see it designed there, is the WonderSwan was designed so that you could play it either vertically or horizontally. Some games would take advantage of this in different ways. Some games would actually allow you to do both. Shout out to my other son, Klonoa. I love him. But for the most part, it was essentially the same tech as a Game Boy. This one was just released by Bandai. Again, the same owners of Digimon. It was... Once again, it's the virtual pet. You're raising your Digimon and fighting with them. But there were a couple of things that this particular version had that helped set it apart. There was a box set for this game that actually came with a clear orange WonderSwan system. That is my favorite color. I was very happy to find that out. And I was not able to get my hands on this box set, but I did get the console. So... I'm a selfish and greedy man, so this isn't enough for me. There are other things in this box set I still want. You might notice that that is not just a game cartridge sitting next to the system, there is also a little peripheral that comes with it. That is the coolest thing about this. It would actually let you connect with a virtual pet to the WonderSwan system and let them battle. Which... Honestly, I kind of lost my mind when I saw that for the first time, and that little discovery is what inspired me to make this panel to begin with. So, I want it. The next virtual pet simulation game was released in 2013 for the PlayStation Portable. Now, that might be a little later than you were expecting. It certainly was for me, but there is not a lot going on with this one. This was actually a pre-order bonus for a different Digimon game that came out the same year. That was Digimon Adventure, based off of that original anime series. I can't go too into detail with this particular game. There are going to be more than a few of these games tonight that I can't get, give you a full summary of because we only have so much time together tonight. But it was a cool JRPG adaptation of a story that has touched the hearts of a lot of fans, and it even went beyond the anime series to even adapt the OVA story, our war game, or what we might recognize as Digimon the movie. So... but again, it was a pre-order bonus. This was bare bones as it gets. While the other virtual pet sims were emulating the experience, but adding onto it, this was more like an emulator of the actual LCD game. That is all this was. You were just playing it on a PSP. It's still kind of neat in that respect, but yeah, it's simple. I had a hard time looking up information about this thing because there's not much information to find. The virtual pet simulation was a neat kind of way to bring Digimon into the video game realm, but even the Sega Saturn game, while it did start implementing some new mechanics, left a lot of opportunity for growth. It left a lot of opportunity to expand even further, and now we can talk about Digimon World. This game was released on the PlayStation 1 in Japan in 1999. In North America and Europe, it came out in 2000 and 2001, respectively. This is based on the virtual pets to a degree, but it does expand on them to a much, much larger scale. You play as a kid that gets warped into his Digivice, and he is now in the digital world. You get one Digimon companion, and then you raise it, grow it into new forms, and then it will die, and the process starts all over again. You use them to explore the world that you're in, File City, and you actually get to help File Island, and you help rebuild your little hub area known as File City in the game. The Digivolving in this is the core mechanic. Everything that you can do, everywhere you can go, mostly revolves around the forms that your Digimon takes later on. It is complex, and it's a little hard to put into words. It's a good thing I already put it into words a few years ago, so I think maybe I'll shut up and let me do the talking for a minute. Near the edge of the city is a location called the Green Gym. There are other gyms in this game, but I'm gonna be honest, this is the only one that matters. Here you can take your Digimon to a workout station and raise one of their stats: HP, MP, offense, defense, speed, or brains. Now, time is always moving forward in this game, and with every workout, an in-game hour passes. Usually, this is a real-world minute, and you can watch that full minute play out, but you can also just press the triangle button to speed past that process and jump right to the end of said hour. Each Digimon has a certain amount of time that needs to pass before they can evolve into their next form, and depending on what their stats are at the end of that time period, they'll evolve into one of several possible new forms. Each base Digimon has their own evolution tree dictating what they can grow into, when, and under what conditions, and after enough time passes, once you've raised it into either a champion or ultimate level Digimon, they'll die of old age and reform as an egg or Digitama of your choosing, giving you some agency over which evolution tree you want to train with. So let's say you start with this Digitama and hatch a Bodamon. You'll want to get a head start on a few of his stats, and after just a couple of hours, he'll evolve into a Koromon. Now this is where it starts to split, because after maybe one in-game day passes, your Koromon is going to evolve into either an Agumon or a Gabumon. This is depending on which stats have been given priority. Say for example, if you want an Agumon, you'll need to have Koromon's HP, MP, and offense take priority over his defense, speed, and brains, and vice versa if you want a Gabumon. Okay, now he's evolved and you have your Agumon, and I hope all of that made sense to you because now it can evolve into one of 6 different possible creatures. Okay, 7 if we're counting Numamon. More on him later. And this is where the interesting part kicks in. I don't know how my younger self would have responded to this game, mostly because the anime taught me what the paths of evolution were for each of these creatures, but the original V-Pets and by proxy Digimon World do not follow this logic. These evolutionary trees are not linear, and you have to have the stats for each possible outcome down to a science, and if you don't, good luck, because this game has no intention to walk you through that process. Okay, so, I could sit here and make you watch this video all day, but I'm not going to do that. It is a long video, and if you would like, you can go, actually watch the whole thing if you want me to go in depth. Partially also because, could you guys hear that okay? Oh, okay, it sounded very echoey to me, so I wasn't sure if it was clear, because I have another clip to play later and I didn't want to, I can skip it if it didn't sound right. Near the edge of this, shut the hell up. Now, something really important to recognize is that everything matters. How you get your Digimon to new forms, everything is a factor. The stats that you train them into matter. Letting them go to sleep when they are tired matters. How often they fight and how often they win matters. How often you feed them, what you feed them, and how much they weigh because of it matters. How much you praise or scold them matters. How much they poop matters. You're supposed to take them to the John, but, you know, they can just kind of like, you know, leave it there out in the open, and they're not supposed to do that. So if you were curious about that Numamon creature from before, this is what happens when you did a bad job. And it's kind of like real life. If you don't do a good job parenting your kid, they're going to grow up to be a piece of shit. Or at least a slug monster that eats it. Now, a lot of kids were very familiar with Numamon because he is the result of enough time passing, but you do not reach the certain stats required for a stronger Digivolution. Those stats are hidden. They are not explained to you. You are not walked through how to reach these evolutions, and no, the strategy guide does not help. It is wrong a lot of the time, so don't waste your money on that. Still, it was actually fun. There is a mystery element to it. As long as you are actually going out there and putting time and effort into your Digimon partner, they will grow into something useful. And there's something fun about not knowing what that will be. And then you have to take it out and battle with it. In order to progress through this game, you do need to explore File Island, but you are going to run into some aggression along the way. Battles are weird. Your Digimon just kind of do their own thing. You have a very limited amount of input in all of this. It is completely based on how well you raise that Digimon, and that will determine how they perform during the fight. So, you know, good luck. But there are a lot of Digimon out there to fight, but there are also several to help. A lot of side quests will revolve around NPC Digimon characters that need some sort of task accomplished for them. And when you help them out, or if you beat enough sense into some other ones, they will rejoin File City. And this little hub area that lies at the center of the game that you constantly return to will grow and develop as you recruit more and more Digimon to it. So, the more that come back here, shops will open up. They will start performing services that will actually make it easier to raise your Digimon into stronger forms. It creates this wonderful feedback loop of the more you train your Digimon, or the better you are at it, the more you can recruit for File City. And the more that you recruit for File City, the better you can be at raising your Digimon. They complement and reward each other. And it really, the way the city grows because of this is one of the most special parts of this game. You start building this connection, not only with your digital partner, as you put time and effort into him, he will grow and develop into something greater, but the city does the exact same thing, and you grow an attachment to this world as well. I think it's why people hold this in such high regard. It's frustrating. When I bring up Digimon World to fans that grew up with it, they say most of the time that they really liked it, but it really confused the hell out of them when they were kids, and I get it. But it was a truly rewarding experience, and it was a gameplay system unlike anything you could get anywhere else. You would think you could get it out of Digimon World 2. No, you can't. So, Digimon World 2 was released in Japan in 2001 and North America in 2002. This game did not come out in Europe, and depending on who you ask, they lucked out. Now, that is... Digimon World 2 does have its merits, and it's not to say that this game does not have its fans either. Digital Hazard, I am looking at you, buddy. But it is incredibly different from Digimon World 1. So raising your Digimon is a different process entirely. You can kind of throw out all of the virtual pet simulation stuff that you learned from the first game because it doesn't revolve around that. And it is a dungeon crawler this time. You have 3 Digimon at your disposal, and you basically just have to go out and explore a bunch of dungeons floor by floor. And Digivolution's different. Okay, so this next part, I had a somewhat longer clip for this. It is the last clip that I'll be sharing, but it is split into 3 parts, so bear with me. While the Digimon raising mechanics in the first Digimon World could be confusing and foreboding to a first-time player, they were very unique and memorable and stood out as something very, well, Digimon. It was unrefined though, and definitely needed some work to make the process of raising a Digimon maybe not so much easier to do, but at least easier to understand. What I find funny is that even while this game tries to steer those base mechanics to a more traditional process of winning battles and gaining XP to level up and acquire new forms and abilities, they still found a way to tack on enough extra elements to make it feel complicated and frankly, annoying. So I started with an Agumon. Cute little guy, mascot of the series, we can all appreciate him, I'm sure. I took him with me through the first few domains and had him fight in battles and gain some experience. I was wondering if I could fast track some stuff by doing some grinding. Get my guy leveled up and maybe up to a Greymon and just start wiping through some of the opening areas of the game. Nothing like a little well-earned power chip to put you in a good mood in an RPG, right? Well, it's not quite that simple. Your Digimon can achieve evolution through leveling up, yes, and the level that they need to reach to attain that new level is always the same. There are no baby or in-training Digimon in this game. Level 1 will always be a rookie level Digimon. At level 11, they can evolve into a champion, an ultimate at level 21, and finally, once they reach level 31, they can achieve a mega. What did I do? I hit something.
A mega evolution.
Yeah.
But there is a catch. Your Digimon have level caps. Yeah, you see that meter at the end of battles showing you how much experience your Digimon needs to level up again? After a bit, you'll start seeing this instead, and I seriously thought this was a glitch the first time I saw it, but no, that means your Digimon has reached its current level cap and will not be able to level up any further. This is where a new mechanic known as DNA Digivolution comes in, taking 2 creatures and essentially combining them together to get a new Digimon. That might sound familiar to some of you fans of the anime, but this works nothing like what you're thinking. Instead of coming together, pooling their strength and combining for a more powerful result, they instead come together and result into something weaker. DNA Digivolve 2 champion-level Digimon together, and you'll get a level 1 rookie. And that will need to be trained up again and DNA Digivolved with another Digimon that you also need to level up to its cap and keep repeating the process to raise that level cap. And that begs the question, how much does this process raise the level cap of your Digimon? Well, it depends.
I'm gonna skip the rest of that. I'm going to implore you to maybe watch that video, not only, because I would just really like that, but also because we do have a limited amount of time, and that's just a lot of words. So, yeah, it's complicated, and it takes a really long time. It's neat, sure. It's also really jarring and takes forever and is very, very repetitive. So this game was not received as well as the first game. But there was merit to it. So, you might be wondering, for Digimon World 3, did they maybe take some elements from Digimon World 2 and help build on that to make something better? Or did they go back to the basics with Digimon World 1 and maybe refine that system and make that into something new? So Digimon World 3 is completely different again. This is This is a more traditional JRPG. This one's actually a lot of fun, too. I love the visual style of this game as well. It takes a more 2D sprite approach. It looks gorgeous. 3D models are used for battles, but for the most part, it does take a different visual direction. Digivolving is still the unique element, but I am not going to sit you down and make you listen to all of that again. So I don't have a clip to share with you of a review of that particular game, but let's put a pin in that till the end, maybe. So, this game did play it a bit more safe. It was simpler, and the barrier to entry was lesser. It had a more ambitious plot. It had a lot more going on there, and I actually really like the way the story goes, but I'm not going to spoil it in this particular panel. The gameplay loop is actually a lot more just like leveling up. It's gaining experience. It's going into fights and then earning levels that way. There are some extra elements on top of that, sure, and it does kind of get complicated the more that you look into it. However, if you wanted to just go into this and just play it casually, you can have a good time, and it's really good for that. One thing that a lot of people do kind of agree on, though, is that there's a bit too much backtracking in this game. In fact, most of the quests will just send you all over the map, and a lot of it's just places you've already been to. So that's one point of contention. But this was the game that, I think the most amount of people just had an easier time latching onto. And it was just easier to pick up and play. So they did it. They found the formula. They found the thing. I personally prefer Digimon World 1. I think it is the most unique, and I think it plays into the strengths and unique nature of Digimon as a franchise the best. But it would make so much sense for Digimon World 4 to take this basis and kind of run with that. Why the hell is it a top-down action RPG? It's a hack and slash. This doesn't make any sense. They're monsters. They have claws. They have teeth. Why do they have swords? Some of them have guns. So Digimon World 4 was released in 2005, and it went in a very different direction again. This was also the first of the Digimon games to go multi-platform. This was released on the PlayStation 2, Xbox, and GameCube. It's confusing. Again, it's a completely different gameplay style. It's also very poorly balanced if it's just you. You can play with up to 4 people in this game. And it really wants you to. Because if you're going into this with less than that, it doesn't care. It's gonna hit you with the same amount of difficulty regardless. So bring friends, please. This was actually a tie-in to a Japan-only OVA. It's easy enough to understand if you haven't seen it, which, let's be honest, most of us haven't. But it always did kind of seem like a strange direction to take in. But hey, apparently this franchise really loves going in strange new directions. With that said, we're going to have to speedrun a couple of these next games to go through. There were fighting games. Yeah. In 2001, on the PlayStation, we saw Digimon Rumble Arena. This was more focused on one-on-one duels. It was fun. It was a little bit slow, but I had a good time with this. I think a lot of kids did. It was good to sit down and hang out with some friends and play this. But if you were looking for something a little faster paced, or maybe you had more friends to play with, Digimon World 2 had you covered when that came out on the PS2, GameCube, and Xbox in 2004. This was more party-friendly, it was a lot quicker, and then later on, we got All-Star Rumble. People don't like this one as much. I don't like this one as much. But there were other fighting games. We had them on handhelds. Digimon Battle Spirit. There were a couple of these games. They were originally released on the WonderSwan in 2001 and 2002, but in 2003 they were ported over to the Game Boy Advance. They were a little limited in the way that they played. They were pretty simplistic, but hey, they were a good game to play on a car trip, that sort of thing. It might also remind you of a different franchise entirely. Battle Spirit is very close to the name of a trading card game, which reminds me, there were TCG video games. On the PlayStation 1, there were actually 2 of them, but America only got the second one. They were released in 1999 and 2001 respectively, and they emulated the playstyle of a TCG game, but it did add in some special elements that you could really only do in a video game. The second game in particular has a plot that goes in some really wild directions. Again, I got a review of this game too if you want to know more about that. There were further ones. There was one on the WonderSwan, of course. It would be a shame if there wasn't a TCG game on a handheld, but that one never came out over here. And then there was Digimon Gentrix for the PC in 2011. That one also didn't come out over here. You're going to hear that a lot from here on out. There's a lot of Japan only, so buckle in for that. Now, we were not quite done with video games that were emulating the experience of a little handheld Tamagotchi clone. That brings us to Pocket Digimon World. This was a disc that was released for the PlayStation 1, in Japan only, in 2000. And the next year it came out with 2 expansions. And this took advantage of the Sony Pocket Station. I should have had that out. I've got a Pocket Station. I'm not going to fish for it right now, but it's in here. So the Sony Pocket Station was a memory card for the PlayStation. It only came out in Japan. And it came with a little LCD screen that would let you play small mini games on the go, and a lot of games supported this. And I was really happy to find out about this because I was sad that we got a Digimon game on the Saturn, but not on the Dreamcast, because it felt so obvious to me that you would put something Digimon related on a VMU. This is fine too. And it wasn't the only one. There was also Pocket Kulumon. This was based off of a little creature from one of the Digimon series. That would be Digimon Tamers. And it was basically just being able to walk around with little Kulumon on your Pocket Station. But just like the other WonderSwan virtual pet simulator that we saw, this had a unique element in that you could battle with friends, but there was also a peripheral for a WonderSwan game that let you connect to the Pocket Station games as well, and letting you fight with those. They really expanded on a lot of these, and I think it's probably one of the coolest elements of this franchise that we never got over here. So, that's fun. There were a ton of WonderSwan Digimon games. A lot of them were RPGs, and a lot of them were based on anime, and of course, we did not get any of them, sure, thank you, Bandai. But they also did often come with connectivity compatibility with other Digivices. Not only just the originals, but also some of the Digivices that were released later on. And it kind of just kept that train going. After a while, though, there was a push to get more RPGs that had a little bit heavier focus on story, and that led us to the Digimon story games. The original was released on the Nintendo DS in 2006, and it was renamed Digimon World DS in North America. This kind of helped usher in the more story-focused RPGs in the Digimon franchise, but again, we still called it Digimon World. In fact, we did that for just about anything. There There was another anime-based RPG game called Data Squad, based off of the Digimon Savers or Data Squad anime series that came out on the PlayStation 2 in 2007. And then we had another game for the DS called Digimon World Championship, which didn't really feel like it fit in the world or story categories. It was a little bit closer to the digital pet like raising simulation, but it wasn't exactly one-to-one, and it unfortunately was a little limited in how much it really had to offer. In total, there were 6 Digimon story games. They came out between the years of 2006 and 2011, and only 3 of them actually came out to North America. We got Digimon World DS, Digimon Story. We also got Digimon World Dusk and Digimon World Dawn in 2007. I am sorry. I wish I could talk more about these games, especially Dusk, because I kind of feel like a lot of Digimon fans would really like to discuss that particular one. But the most that I can really say at this point is that, again, this was really the story-centric era of the Digimon video games. There was also a slew of MMOs and mobile games, things of that nature that were coming out. But again, it kind of kept that trend going where not a lot of them were really coming out in North America. Some of them did. But a lot of them have since shut down, and they are no longer accessible. Except for Digimon Masters, I'm pretty sure you can still download that on Steam. I'm pretty sure it's free. So there is something that we still have supported these days, but a lot of these are just kind of lost to time. And that is sad, but it did feel like for a while we were actually getting a pretty good amount of Digimon video games, including some really wild ones. Anybody here play Mario Super Circuit back in the day? Yeah. Why? You could have been playing Digimon Racing. This was released in 2004 for the Game Boy Advance. It does kind of play like Super Circuit. It's a kart racer for the Game Boy Advance. It's what you expect. And of course, there is Digivolving in this. Clearly, there is no limit for this franchise. That includes edutainment games centered around a failed peripheral only in Japan. Digimon Park was released in 2001 exclusively in Japan for the PS1, and it used the Kid Station controller. Now, this thing was just a giant pad version of the face buttons of the PlayStation controller, and this was just an easy way to play little edutainment games, mini games, things of that nature that would kind of keep your kid occupied and out of your goldfish bowl or whatever. I don't know what these kids do. It was simple, but it didn't even sell well in Japan. Actually, I'm sure a few people here are familiar with a buddy of mine. Who here has seen some stuff from Cat Icarus? Yeah. He talked a little bit about this one on one of his videos when he was talking about Thomas the Tank Engine. There was also a game that centered around the same peripheral. It's incredibly simplistic. It's just a set of little mini games. It's just an excuse for them to press buttons and feel stimulated for a little bit. It was... It was a time. We got other games. These were not official. But, you know, during the Digimon craze, more and more fans were popping out of the woodwork, and they were yearning for more experiences to play. But there was one gameplay style in particular that a lot of fans really wanted to go back to. There was an effort for this in 2012, when Digimon World Redigitized was released for the PSP in 2012. There was an upgraded version of this released for the 3DS in 2013. Both exclusive to Japan. So this was the long-awaited return to that adventure game based off of a virtual pet. A lot of fans wanted to kind of go back to this style, but it just didn't happen, and then the one time it finally did, it just didn't come out over here. There was a fan effort to try to get this localized and translated, but no dice, sadly. Redigitize did bring back that classic Digimon World gameplay. A lot of fans did kind of have issues with this one because you were more limited in what you could actually digivolve your creatures into, sadly. It also kind of sucked that the city that you were helping rebuild, it didn't really visually change. That tangible element was really important to the tone and to the unique nature of that original Digimon World game, and this was a sticking point. I am not here to tell you that Redigitize is a bad game. It is not. But it wasn't exactly what fans were looking for at the time. The trend here is that we just kind of started seeing less and less of them. Games were coming out, but they just weren't coming out over here. Aside from the mobile and PC spin-offs, we went 6 years between mainline games, between Digimon World Championship and... We went 8 years between mainline games, between Digimon World Championship and Digimon Stories Cyber Sleuth. This was the return to form. This is what I think a lot of newer fans finally got to jump in on. It is a really, really good game. This was originally released for the PS Vita in Japan in 2015, but this one actually did make it over here. This was released in 2016 in America for both the Vita and the PlayStation 4. This was also the first Digimon game to be released in the States that kept the story part of the Digimon Story title. This is a unique, fun little experience. It has a much heavier story focus than most of the other games that we got up to that point. But it offered a traditional turn-based RPG combat system, but you could also collect and train and raise a lot of different Digimon. Things were a lot simpler, but there was enough to keep you involved, to make you feel like you were actually able to experiment with how you were raising your Digimon. It also had that sleuth element where the Digimon are starting to manipulate things in the real world, and you have to go solve mysteries based on that. It's a really great concept. And then finally, Digimon World Next Order came out. This was another Vita game that got a PS4 port. This came out in Japan in 2016, and we actually got this one in America the next year. This was, again, another take on the Digimon World formula, but they actually graced us with one this time. So again, this was taking that Digimon World style, but you could raise 2 Digimon at once, kind of even broadening up even more like how much you could actually raise within a certain time frame. And it actually served as a direct sequel to the original Digimon World game. This was incredibly rewarding to fans that grew up with that original title. This was treated much more closely to that original source material, and it deviated a bit less than Redigitized did. A lot of fans really like this one. I like it too. I like the open-ended Digivolution, but it does also kind of help direct you on how to achieve certain ones as well. We also got to see a prequel/sequel to Cyber Sleuth, and that came out, I think, just the next year. And this one was actually bundled with future ports of Digimon Story Cyber Sleuth. So we actually started to see future ports of these games, which we didn't get a whole lot of before. Cyber Sleuth Complete was brought to the PC and Switch in 2019, and Next Order was given the same treatment just a couple of years ago. So these games are actually readily available for fans to get into now, and they are great places to start for people that are trying to figure out what the Digimon games are all about. But that's a lot of games that are just ports, retreads. Like, these games are close to a decade old now, and they were kind of all we had for a bit. It was interesting when the fan push to get Redigitized localized was going around. It didn't work, but Bandai did respond, and they said that the show of interest was interesting. Imagine that. Supporting and building up a game, and actually putting some marketing behind it, getting it out there. It helps a game survive. Let's talk about Digimon Survive. I sound bitter. I love this game. This sadly had a lot of trouble coming out. This was developed during the COVID-19 pandemic, and as you can imagine, that brought in a lot of problems with actually getting it out there and released. This was originally slated for 2019, but it didn't actually come out until 2022. The exact same day as Xenoblade Chronicles 3. I want to complain about that for a second. What were they thinking? So this game had so much trouble coming out, and then when it finally does, they decide to launch it the same exact day as a highly anticipated Nintendo blockbuster. This one didn't exactly do gangbusters, but it is a really interesting title. This is primarily a visual novel. It is incredibly dark in tone, at least in terms, or in comparison to what games had come before. It treated the Digimon more like yokai, where they were just these mysterious monsters that didn't belong in this world, and it's a really cool direction to take these things into. It did also have a lot of elements of tactic RPGs, but primarily you're going to be reading. You're going to be making choices and going through the story, and the story changes depending on those decisions that you make. Speaking of the choices that you make changing the game, this is one of the coolest Digivolution systems. The choices that you make actually determine what your Digimon is going to Digivolve into. It's based on who you are as a person. This kind of ties it into the way the Digimon anime would treat these relationships. It is tied to the heart of the character, and that kind of helps inform what they will grow into later. And I always really liked that element. I thought it was a lot of fun, and it just it's a really cool way to unlock different stages for these Digimon. A lot of fans liked this, a lot of fans didn't. So that kind of goes back to the marketing. The nature of this game was pretty misunderstood. A lot of people went into this and picked it up thinking that they were getting a tactics RPG with a side of visual novel. It is very much the other way around. There's not a lot of RPG going on here. There is some, but you're mostly reading. This led to a lot of fans being upset to the point where there was a lot of review bombing. A lot of people were complaining about this online, and this animosity that was pushed towards the game was just really sad to see. This poor game couldn't even catch a break when it had so much trouble just coming out to begin with. And that was the last one to come out. Where does that leave us now? I don't know. A new Digimon story game was promised, but sadly, there have been no updates on this. Kazumasa Habu, the previous producer of the series, he had been with the franchise since the DS story game era. He had a lot of tenure in the Digimon franchise, and he was a really important piece of what kept these games being developed and actually coming out. And now that he's gone and he's been replaced, a lot of the future of the Digimon games is unknown. It's up in the air. We don't know what new game is going to come out. We don't know when it will come out. But maybe that's okay. If we've learned anything from the Digimon franchise, it's that the heart of the series is putting your trust and putting your love into something and just watching what it will grow into. You don't always have control over it, but it will be something that matters. Digimon as a franchise is about connection. It is about taking risks. It is not about playing it safe. It is not about following the rules. It's not even about making sense all the time. But it's about making you connect with something. It is about you developing with something that you're pouring your time and effort into. It's about support. The kind of support that is us supporting the games, it is us supporting each other. It's a bunch of people all coming to listen to some guy poorly yap about a game franchise he really likes. Digimon is about you. Whatever direction this franchise is going to take, I think we owe it to kind of see what it will become. There are a lot of fans that are putting together new games all of their own. They're not official, but that doesn't mean they're not just as good. They're going back to retranslate these games that never came out over here. That is really awesome. The more that we can kind of delve into this and experience what it is, that is what it really is all about. So, that is kind of all I have for this. But I do have a little bit of extra time. Are there any questions? What do we got? Okay, so the Vital Bracelet. The virtual pet, I consider that more of like a virtual pet, and that is a world unto its own. There are a lot of different forms that the virtual pet toys have taken over the years, and the Vital Bracelet was one of the more recent developments. Essentially, it was kind of like a Fitbit where you could actually wear it like a watch, And you could raise your Digimon by walking around with it, doing exercises, things like that. And the different like criteria that you hit during all of this would change what your Digimon would turn into. Really cool idea, really cool system. Yes. Yes, on my channel, I am planning to review every single Digimon game. I'm starting with the American releases for now. The Japanese ones are going to be a little tougher, but I'll try. That is appreciated, but I'll have to cross that bridge when I get to it. Yes. That's a good point. So the IP has been supported to a degree as of late, and the trading card game is definitely where we've seen it the most. Yeah. I collect the trading cards. I don't play it because my brain is not built for TCG. I believe you. I believe you. But I'm just not good at trading card games. Yes. My favorite Digimon? This is going to be the most basic answer imaginable, but Omnimon. Yeah. We had a pretty big drought, at least here in the States, for a long time, until we got two of the best games in the franchise, being Cyber Sleuth and Next Order. As long as there are people that care about this series and are willing to nurture it, it will survive. It will grow. And I think that this series will continue to change shape. It might need some time to really get that support, and I think it really needs somebody at Bandai to just kind of see the value in the series and just kind of make that push towards getting something released. I can help you out in just a second. I do have somebody that's been holding their hand back here. I haven't played it. I'm not going to lie to you. I haven't played that one. Yes. A gacha game? I won't say they can't. Yeah, that's dangerous. Digimon Heroes? Oh, okay, yeah. So we did have Digimon Heroes. Oh, yeah, that's because it is a horror game. Yeah, Digimon Survive is a horror game, and it's a damn good one. I heard about that. That is a side of the Digimon franchise I still need to delve deeper into. So unfortunately, that's not something I can personally comment on. But like the digital online comics and everything like that, I also definitely recommend looking into Digimon the comic. That was a bit of a passion project. I would encourage looking into that. Like any aspect of the Digimon franchise we can support helps every other aspect of it. Give me just a second. I do believe I saw a hand over here. Yeah. A Flash game. How did I miss that? God damn it. Okay. Your homework assignment is to look up the Flash games from Fox Kids. Oh, God. This is a simple answer, but I need you to hear me out on this. I'm pretty sure Bandai owns this. I want a Digimon Dynasty Warriors. Where is Digimon Warriors? That would kick so much ass. I can only answer a couple more. Sorry, behind you, buddy. Yeah, that's a good point. So one day the goggles might catch up to me, but for now the glasses will do just fine. Thank you guys so much for being so talkative. Okay, yes. I love Gamamon. Ghost Game is good. It's too long. I think it's too long. I think it needed to be cut down a bit, but I do really, really like it. Battle Spirits is technically Frontiers. Yes. And there is another one, but I'm sorry, I'm failing to connect which one that was. Cyber Sleuth. That is the one that I've gone to where I'm just like, it's not my favorite game in the series. I do like it a lot, but it is the easiest to get into. I believe that's what you were talking about, Digimon Liberators. So unfortunately not, but I do need to look into that. Huh? Yeah! Dude, I like Yokemon a lot. He's cute. Yes. I answered that one. It's Omnimon. Yeah. You know what? I'll. My favorite rookie? Ah, shit. Well, he's not a rookie. He's an infant. Gamamon. Favorite rookie is Gamamon. Atmon or Digimon? Atmon or Digimon? Yeah. Well, let's not segregate the digital creatures. Platinum Numamon? Platinum Numamon means you're a really good foster parent. You made that shit glow. I think I saw one more hand over here. I may not have. So as a fan of the series, okay, I'm sorry, this might be an annoying answer, but I might still say Cyber Sleuth. If only because I think it carries enough of that tone, and it also carries enough of the iconography. I do think that Bandai needs to get away from Digimon Adventure a little bit. It's the series I'm most nostalgic for, but like they gotta market more of the franchise. But I would say Cyber Sleuth, if not Cyber Sleuth, I would say Next Order. Or Digimon World 1 with a guide. Please don't introduce anybody to Digimon with World 2. Yes, I have. Okay, so shout out to Discotech. The newly remastered Digimon movies are amazing. They actually got as much as they could of the original voice cast to come back to redo the original OVAs before they were retranslated and turned into the Digimon movie. Do not get me wrong. I still love the Digimon movie. All of that pop music is essential. No. Okay. Angela Anaconda is actually a pretty good show. But I think that is going to be all the time that we have for today. I know some other people are going to need to come in and set up. That being said, while I sadly was not able to go super in-depth on every game here, there was one game in particular I actually did go a bit more in depth on elsewhere. Just a couple of hours ago, earlier today, I released my nearly 2-hour-long retrospective of Digimon World 3. I've been working on this for months. I feel like I've run a marathon, but it's finally out. It is longer than the Sonic 3 movie, which became my goal about halfway through. And it is probably the one video that I'm the most proud of that I've made. So thank you all so much, especially thank you all for participating so heavily in the Q&A. I appreciate each and every one of you that all came out for this. I do also want to encourage you, if you are Sonic fans, my friend Nick, the Game Apologist, will be hosting a panel Saturday night. What time is that panel at, Nick? What time is the panel? What time? The panel, your panel. It's at, you said 10:30? 10:30 p.m. Saturday night. We'll be hosting the panel where we answer the question, is Sonic good again? Thank you all so much for coming tonight. I will see you next mission.